Preston dragged Evelyn into the hallway and mocked her for ruining his building, flashing a fake violation he created after smashing her windows himself. Neighbors watched, unsure whether to step in. Evelyn didn't argue. She'd sent the video to one person who never ignored her calls. His arrival would end everything. Before we go any further, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us bring you even more powerful stories. Now, let's begin. Preston Vale took over the building on a Tuesday that already felt wrong from the moment Evelyn Moore heard his heavy footsteps in the hallway. He did not knock kindly. He rapped his knuckles on her door like he owned her time. Evelyn wiped her hands on her apron and opened. He looked past her instead of at her, gaze skimming the small living room, the blankets, the framed photos of her grandkids. "Inspection," he said. "No. Hello." Evelyn stepped aside. 15 years in that apartment, and not a single late payment. She had painted the kitchen when the walls peeled. She had scrubbed the stairs when the cleaning crew stopped coming. Preston walked in like he was walking through trash, shoes on her rug, fingers trailing along her bookshelf. He opened cabinets, tugged at the bathroom door, lifted the corner of the rug with the toe of his shoe. "Looking for something, Mr. Vale?" she asked. "Old units cause problems," he replied. "I like to know what I inherited." He opened her fridge, stared at the containers, then shut it with a bored flick of his wrist. "You live alone?" he asked. "Yes. No pets, no guests staying long-term. Just me and the Lord, baby." And he quiet. He did not smile. Older tenants break things, they forget things. The words sat between them. Evelyn felt her fingers curl into her apron. She forced them loose. "I have never broken anything here that I did not fix faster than management," she said. "You can check your files." He already had. Her record was spotless. No late rent, no noise complaints. He moved to the window, pressed his palm against the glass, then let it drop. "These are old, drafty. Safety issue. They've been like that since you were in high school," she replied. For a heartbeat, his eyes snapped to hers. There it was, the thing behind the polite word inspection. "This building isn't meant for your kind," he said softly. Evelyn felt the room tilt. She had heard that sentence her whole life, but hearing it inside the one place she had managed to keep safe for 15 years landed to front. "My kind?" she asked. "Fixed incomes, old habits," he replied, already walking toward the door. "I have a vision for this place." Preston opened the door without leaving a notice. He stepped out, then paused with one foot still on her rug. "You should start thinking about other options," he added. "Change is coming." He left his cologne and his threat hanging in the air. Evelyn closed the door gently. The lock clicked. She leaned her forehead against the wood, eyes closed. He didn't know about Marcus. He didn't know whose name sat on that law journal by the TV. He thought she was alone. That was his first mistake. Preston didn't wait long before showing his hand. 2 nights after his first inspection, Evelyn woke to a sharp crack that cut straight through her sleep. Her eyes flew open. The apartment felt colder than usual. A thin whistle slipped through the curtains. She sat up slowly, joints aching. Another crack sounded. Glass skittered across the floor. She pushed herself to her feet and moved toward the living room, one hand on the wall for balance. Her slippers brushed against something sharp. When she lifted the curtain, the chill hit her face. The window pane was spidered open, shards on the sill and floor. She whispered, "Lord, give me patience," because panic was pointless at her age. Outside, the hallway lights flickered. Someone walked briskly past her door. She recognized the heavy, impatient stride. Preston. He didn't slow down. He didn't look back. Evelyn crouched carefully, picking up the larger shards one by one. The breeze tugged at her nightgown. Her fingers trembled, not from fear, but from the insult of it. She had survived eviction threats, layoffs, hospital scares. But something about a man breaking her window while she slept dug under her ribs. She cleaned the mess with slow, deliberate movements. She wrapped the shards in old newspaper. By sunrise, the window stood patched with cardboard and tape. She made tea and sat at the table, staring at the pale square of morning light, fighting through her improvised repair. At 8 sharp, there was another knock. Not firm this time, showy. She opened the door to find Preston standing with a clipboard, his jacket thrown over his shoulder like he was posing for a cheap magazine. "Property damage," he announced. "Serious violation." Evelyn blinked at him. "You think I broke my own window?" "You people get desperate," he said, trying to stall eviction. "Dramatic stunts don't work on me." Bystanders peeked from cracked doors. Someone muttered, "This man again." Another whispered, "She never caused trouble. Why her?" Preston clicked his pen loudly, filling out a form with smug little taps. "This goes straight to enforcement." Evelyn didn't argue. She didn't raise her voice. She only stepped aside, letting him look at the taped window like he'd discovered a crime scene. When he walked off, laughing under his breath, she shut the door, exhaled, and reached for her phone. Her hand steadied the moment she opened the building security app. The lobby camera showed exactly what she expected. 2 hours after midnight, Preston stepping into view, Preston lifting something heavy. The swing, the shatter, his shoulders flinching at the impact. Caught in perfect clarity. She replayed it twice to be sure, leaning closer each time. Then she forwarded the clip to her adopted son with a short message. "Marcus, I need you." She set the phone down. The apartment felt still again, but not empty, not this time. The footage sat waiting in his inbox, like a lit fuse. Marcus replied faster than Evelyn expected. One line lit up her screen. "I'm on my way." No punctuation, no softness. She knew that tone from the years he fought his way through law school, with nothing but her prayers and the second-hand laptop she bought from a church sale. When Marcus used that voice, someone was already in trouble. Evelyn set the phone down and pressed her palms together, steadying her breath. She moved through her apartment with small grounding motions, folding a blanket, straightening a photo frame, wiping a counter that was already clean. She wasn't pretending everything was fine. She was reminding herself that she still owned her peace, no matter who tried to shake it loose. Meanwhile, the hallway buzzed with whispers. "She sent something to someone important, I heard." Another replied, "Good." Preston went too far this time. Their voices drifted in and out like passing weather. Never loud enough to offer comfort. Never strong enough to stand beside her. By noon, Evelyn heard the elevator ding. A low hum of conversation followed. She walked toward the door, but before she reached it, there was another knock. This one wasn't showy. It was sharp, intentional. She opened the door to see Preston standing there again. This time, with a folded eviction notice gripped between 2 fingers, like it offended him to hold it. "Since you like games," he said, "I'm done waiting." He didn't give her room to answer. He grabbed her arm, not roughly enough to bruise, but firm enough to make a point, and pulled her into the hallway. Evelyn's slipper slid on the floor as she steadied herself. A few people stepped back, pretending to check their mail while keeping their phones ready. Preston lived for an audience. He raised the notice above his head, like a referee calling a foul. "This is what happens when tenants lie," he said. "This is what happens when they drag out their welcome." Evelyn's heart thudded once hard. She didn't fear him. She feared the disrespect, the way he stripped dignity like it was an inconvenience. "Let go of me," she said quietly. Preston smirked at the floor tiles. "You don't get to make demands." Then a deeper voice cut in. "She does when someone assaults her." The hallway shifted. Preston froze mid-smirk. The bystanders straightened. Phones lifted higher, but not toward Evelyn this time. Marcus Tate stepped out of the elevator, wearing the expression he saved for courtroom arguments that required precision. He walked with calm, steady strides, shoulders squared, eyes fixed on Preston. 2 federal agents followed him, badges glinting under the fluorescent lights. Evelyn felt her breath catch, not from fear, but from the sudden relief of no longer standing alone. Preston tried to recover. "Who are you?" Marcus didn't answer. He stopped just inches away, close enough that Preston had to tilt his chin up. Marcus reached into his coat and pulled out a tablet. The screen lit the hallway blue. With a single tap, the footage played. The swing, the break, the window exploding in the dark. Preston's own face, illuminated by the flash of shattered glass. Every phone in the hallway zoomed in. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Preston blinked hard, searching for a lie quick enough to save him. No lie came. He was cornered by his own shadow. The hallway went so still, it felt suspended in the air. Preston opened his mouth twice, no sound coming out. His eyes kept darting from the tablet to Marcus, as if one of them might suddenly disappear and give him back control. Marcus didn't blink. "You broke her window. You filed a fraudulent complaint hours later. You dragged her into the hallway to humiliate her." Preston swallowed, throat bobbing. You don't know what you're talking about." Marcus tapped the screen again. The footage replayed colder the second time. Every swing echoed. Every shard of glass felt like a statement. The agents behind him shifted slightly. Hands relaxed, but ready. Their presence enough to lock the entire space in tension. Preston's voice cracked. "Look, this is a misunderstanding." One agent stepped forward. "Mr. Vale, we need you to keep your hands where we can see them." Evelyn watched from a few feet away. One hand pressed lightly to her chest. She wasn't shaking. She wasn't angry. She was tired. Tired of fighting men like him who thought age made her invisible. Marcus glanced at her before speaking again, his tone low. "You targeted her because she lives quietly, because you thought she had no one to call." He leaned just slightly closer. "You miscalculated." A neighbor whispered, "He messed with the wrong lady." Another murmured, "She raised a judge. That man is done." Preston's breath grew shallow. His fingers twitched like he couldn't decide whether to argue or run. "You can't just walk in here with federal agents. This is ridiculous. This is my building." Marcus didn't break eye contact. Not anymore. The agent nearest him lifted his badge. "We are acting on documented evidence of harassment, property destruction, and fraudulent reporting. You are being detained. Pending review." Preston took one step back. His heel hit the wall. He tried to smile, but it wobbled like wet paper. "Let's be reasonable. She's old. They forget things. Maybe she—" Marcus cut him off. "Enough." The single word snapped whatever flimsy excuse Preston was chasing. The agents took him by the arms. He didn't fight. His cheeks flushed red as he realized the entire hallway was filming. He looked at Evelyn then, not with remorse, but with disbelief that she had won. She met his stare calmly. "I told you I lived alone," she said softly. "I never said I was unprotected." Preston stumbled as they guided him toward the elevator. Someone muttered, "There he goes." Another added, "Couldn't have happened to a better man." Marcus finally stepped forward and reached for his mother's arm, guiding her gently out of the center of the chaos. She let out a slow breath she had held since the first shatter of glass days earlier. "You all right?" he asked quietly. "I am now." The elevator doors closed on Preston's stunned face. The hallway buzzed again, but this time with relief, not fear. Neighbors approached Evelyn, offering apologies they'd been too scared to voice before. Marcus didn't bask in any of it. He stood beside her, shoulders still tense, mind already moving to the next phase. This wasn't finished, not by a long shot. What Preston did wouldn't be settled in a hallway. It would be settled in a courtroom, and Marcus intended to make sure the man felt every consequence he tried to force on her. Court moved fast once the footage reached the housing authority. Marcus submitted every detail with the precision of someone who had spent years fighting men who hid behind property titles. Preston tried to stall, filing motions that collapsed the moment they were read. His attorney whispered urgently, but nothing softened the weight of the evidence. When Preston stood before the judge, his confidence looked drained out of him. The judge reviewed the footage twice, brow tightening each time. Fraud, harassment, civil rights violations, all spelled out in clean, undeniable frames. The ruling was swift. The building was placed under state supervision. Preston was barred from managing any residential property until further review. Financial penalties followed, stacking higher than he imagined when he shattered that window in the dark. She sat quietly beside Marcus, hands folded in her lap, listening to the verdict with the calm of someone who had learned long ago that justice rarely arrived quickly, but sometimes arrived exactly when needed. When they walked out of the courthouse, neighbors waited on the steps. A few offered soft applause. One woman said, "We're glad you stayed." Another added, "He had this coming." Back home, the apartment felt warm again. Repairs were scheduled. New oversight promised protection instead of threats. Evelyn placed her teacup on the table, sunlight catching the rim, and allowed herself a slow exhale. Her grandchildren visited that weekend, filling the rooms with laughter she hadn't heard in months. She watched them run from the kitchen to the living room, safe, loud, unbothered. For the first time in years, she didn't tense at every footstep in the hallway. Her home was hers again. And the man who tried to push her out learned the hard way that the quiet old woman in that apartment was not to be underestimated.